Hi everyone, welcome to part 2 of our posture series. Now, if you didn't take part 1, that is perfectly okay. There is nothing in that video that you need to know for this practice. If you want to go back at some point and do part 1, that's great. Focuses a little more on shoulders and neck. In this video, we're going to focus a little more on mid-spine to pelvis and that relationship, how it affects our posture, and how we can find a little more freedom and also strength and support for the spine. So we're going to start out with a resting pose, which is always my favorite way to start any practice. And if you did just do part 1 and you're coming right into part 2, it's just a little break for you. So feet are going to be on the floor, knees and thighs together as feet walk out wide. So we call this tent pose, and the legs are constructive rest pose. You can pigeon toe your feet a little bit here if you like. You're welcome to stick a cushion or a folded blanket between your knees or thighs if that makes this more comfortable. You can give your hips a little wiggle side to side to find a good resting place. Hands and arms can land wherever they'd like to. We're taking a few moments to breathe here. Constructive rest pose, we're not only allowing the nervous system to take a little break, but we are giving some attention, some time to relaxation in the hip flexors. So we're going to come back to this space often during this video. The front of your hips, if you kind of feel your hip bones here, from your hip bones down to the tops of your thighs, these muscles that cross over the hip joint in the front, and they flex the legs. So they compress. You can imagine a rubber band there, if it's shortened, brings the leg up towards you. So when we are sitting often, which many of us are doing in our daily lives, sitting maybe more than our bodies would like, these muscles become compressed, shortened. Sometimes they are stuck in activation and kind of holding us there. They become too tight, they become tense. In this pose, they have a space to relax. So constructive rest pose, really good for the hip flexors, for the psoas, which is this deep, strong hip flexor muscle on each side of your pelvis. At its biggest point, it's about as thick as your fist. So you can imagine it's a strong guy in there. It's what swings our legs forward when we walk. So in this pose, really letting the pit of your belly sink down towards your spine. Imagine softening through the pelvic bowl. And take your breath down as deeply as you comfortably and gently can. You're not straining the breath, but imagine that it can flow into this space at the front of your pelvis. And your exhalations, releasing down through your belly, down through your lower back into the earth. You're softening this space. Let's take another breath or two here. And then as you're ready, knees can peel apart. If there is a cushion or a blanket there, just put it off to the side, and you can walk your feet back in to about hips distance. And experiment what it feels like to rock your pelvis here. So when you breathe in, let your belly balloon up and your pelvis rock forward. So your tailbone will press a little more into the earth. And then as you exhale, move the other way. So your lower back flattens towards the earth, your pelvis tips back as your tailbone curls up. And go back and forth a few times. Exaggerate the movement a little bit. So you get that little arch in the spine and then curling in. Arch in the spine, and then curling in. Good. And we're going to focus on retraining the body a little bit. So if we're often stuck in a big arch in the lower back, which many people are, or if you're stuck in kind of a flattened out lower back, which again is a big portion of the population coming out of that lumbar curve, we're going to let the body recognize what it feels like to be in that pattern, what it feels like to be opposite of that pattern, and then what it feels like to be in neutral, which is where ideally we'd like to be. So let's take a nice deep breath again, arch the spine, Let the body recognize that feeling. Exhale, flatten your lower back, tip the pelvis back. And then slowly return to a neutral space. So there's a slight curve to the lower back. You should feel the majority of your sacrum, that nice flat triangle shape at the bottom of your spine, resting to the ground rather than tilting up or back. Your tailbone should be kind of parallel-ish with the ground. So let's do that again. Inhale, really exaggerated curve in the spine. Exhale, flatten your lower back, tip the pelvis back, contract your belly, and then find a neutral space. Take a full breath there, in and out. Let's do that one more time. We're going to inhale and arch the back. Exhale, flatten the back, contract the belly, and then slowly come back to neutral. Full breath in and out. Let the body integrate that movement. Soak it in. Okay, we're going to flip over to your belly. So low pancake flip here. Right over onto the belly and recentering if you need to on your mat or on your bed so you're not rolling off one side. And as we come down to the belly, give your hips a little wiggle to find their comfort here. Lengthen the legs out long, tops of the feet to the ground. Stack your forearms. Let's do right on top of left. And rest your forehead to your forearms. Now, I'm not going to do that for this video because it muffles my voice quite a bit, but please rest your head down to your forearms. And imagine here, that you can glue your forehead to your right forearm or the back of your wrist. So they're not going to separate. What we're going to do here is a little cross-body locust flow with your breath. So as you breathe in, lift your head and your forearm away from the floor, just a few inches. Your right palm will still face towards the floor. And with your forehead glued to your forearm, that means that your gaze is towards the floor. The back of your neck is long. So we have right arm lifted. We're going to take left leg, so opposite leg, and lift that a few inches. Foot, shin, knee, maybe some thigh. Okay, so think about that hip flexor space that we had a little compressed in the constructive rest pose. Now we're stretching that space a bit, bringing the leg back in space. The hip flexors get some length. Let's take a nice deep breath here, come down, and then we're going to do this a few times with your breath. So inhale, lift your arm, your head, your leg. Remember the back of your neck is long, your palm is facing the floor, and come back down. Inhale, lift up, use the strength of your back. This is a back strengthening exercise. Exhale, come down. And keep going with your breath. So we're supporting the spine here, strengthening the muscles around the spine so that it can be supported. You don't have other muscles that need to fire and grab on to support your spine. It will have more freedom here. Lifting up and lowering down. Let's do one more on this side. Feel into, again, that lower back space. Let's hold this last one. Take a full breath in and out. And then lower down. Okay, let's switch right into the other side. So we're going to bring left forearm on top. Glue your forehead down to your left forearm. And you know where we're going. So with your breath, inhale, lift left arm, right leg this time. Again, cross body and lower down. Nice and slow, keep going with your breath. And so this cross body motion, we're also doing some brain yoga here. Okay, we're working left and right hemisphere of the brain, left and right side of the body. Crossing wires. And really supporting the brain, the whole nervous system. Again, feel into that gentle contraction in your lower back. It's lifting you up here. Feel that lengthening in right side hip flexors. Let's do two more. Inhale and lift. Exhale, lower. And this last one, we're going to hold again. Bring it up. Take a full breath in and out. And then lower back down. Okay, let's take hands out from under your head, bring them down by your shoulders, and press up through a table pose. Find a child's pose. Just a breath or two, hips towards your heels, stretch your lower back. Let it get some space, some release after that exercise, that strengthening exercise. And just letting your breath massage those muscles. And coming back up to table pose, knees going underneath your hips if they weren't there already, wrists about under your shoulders. Take a few cycles of cat and cow. Okay, so if you have already done the part one video, we practice cat and cow there too. It's a whole spinal movement. So really integrating the whole spine, letting it move as a unit, which is important when we're talking about posture. We want the spine to move together. We want all the parts to be in harmony. So we're coming back to this cat and cow flow. But now making it a little more playful in this video, in this practice, let's play with the hips. So before we played with the shoulder blades, gliding them around, finding all the different ways they can move. Let's do that with hips and pelvis here. Start circling. Okay, circle in each direction, see what it feels like. And then you can play with some figure eights if you'd like, or any creative movement in the hips and the pelvis. Feels to you like it maybe breaks up some tension, gives you some freedom, or just feels good. That's all we're doing here, is looking for ways to move that feel good. Let's take another breath or two. Slowly coming back through neutral. I'm going to come back down to the belly. And this time we're going to land in Sphinx. So we're going to have elbows, forearms on the floor. Elbows are right underneath your shoulders. Forearms are forward of that, hands down, palms down on the floor. Now your legs lay out long. Excuse me, I have a bit of allergies here, so you might hear this in my voice. Your legs are long. You're resting on the front of your pelvis and the tops of your legs, a little bit on your belly, but your belly button's going to draw back towards your spine, so you engage your core, support your lower back. Now forearms are going to press into the floor, so you lift up out of your shoulders. They're not up hanging by your ears. You draw them down, draw your neck long. Heart pulls forward. So this nice strong Sphinx pose. You can stay right here. Little back bend pose, which is really nice to free up the torso. If you want to add a little bit of abdominal strengthening exercise here, core exercise, you can play with, we call them Sphinx roll-ups. So I'll give you 3 different levels you can play with. Level 1, you take a nice deep breath here, and as you exhale, you bring your chin toward your chest, round the back of your heart space towards the sky, and peel your belly up off the floor. Engage your belly, okay, hugging towards your spine. And then you inhale, you drop your belly back down, the chest comes forward, the gaze comes back up. So let's do that one more time. Nice deep breath. Exhale and curl, chin towards your chest, round the upper back, engage your belly, peel it up toward your spine. And then inhale back to your Sphinx. So that's level 1. Level 2, as you exhale, chin comes towards your chest, round your heart space, pull your belly in, press into the tops of your feet, and you may pull your hips and a little bit of your thighs up as well. And then come back down. Inhale as you drop your belly, lift your chest, lift your head. Let's do that one more time. So you exhale, chin towards your chest, round the back of your heart, engage your belly, press into your knees, your feet, pull your hips and your thighs up. And come back down. Now the third level and most challenging is a forearm plank. So you start here in your Sphinx, you inhale, exhale, and chin towards your chest, round to the heart, engage the belly, curl your toes as you lift up, engage the front of your thighs, press your heels back in space, full forearm plank. And then inhale, drop the legs, the hips, the belly, lift the heart, lift the head. Let's do that one more time. Nice deep breath. Exhale and curl the upper back, engage the belly, curl the toes, lift up into a full forearm plank. Now let's hold wherever you are in your abdominal strengthening, your core exercises. Take a nice deep breath in and out, and then slowly lower all the way down. You can come out of your Sphinx pose, bring your arms down and out, rest your head down, pillowed on your arms. Maybe kick your heels up and windshield wiper side to side a few times. And then once again, we're going to do a little pancake flip, roll onto your back, recenter if you need to. And our final shape here, we're going to take a pose from the Yin tradition, a Bananasana or crescent shape, to stretch the side body. So arms are going to extend long. Legs extend long. Arms can rest wherever they're comfortable for right now. We're going to take the left leg first, move it over in space a foot or so, resting back down to the floor. And then your right foot's going to follow across your right ankle on top of your left. So hips should stay where they are. The middle of your hips, your belly, if you kind of touch both thigh bone or hip bones and then find a middle space, should still be pointing towards the ceiling. So you don't have one hip lifted up, your pelvis isn't torqued. It's nice and even on the ground. Your legs are just curving over to one side, ankles crossed, right over left. So upper body's going to follow this, shoulders and head now hopping over to the left as much as comfortable. And if you'd like, you can bring your right arm overhead if it rests comfortably to the ground and kind of lengthens that curve a little more. You can also bring your left hand to bracelet your right wrist and gently pull towards the left side. Now there shouldn't be a lot of effort in this. You can do that initial little pull if you'd like, but then just resting into the shape that your body's found. Your hips are kind of the center here, grounding us in center, and then everything else is curling over towards the left side so that the right side of your body can open. We're welcoming the breath into the right side body, into your waist, into your ribs. And we have this muscle in the lower back here that's getting a nice stretch. This is the QL muscle, the quadratus lumborum. Its nickname is the hip hiker. Think about this, hikes our hips up. A little bit of a tongue twister. It's when you're holding a baby on your hip. You know how the hip just kind of lifts up for that? That's the hip hiker muscle here. So for those who have held babies on their hips for a long time, or just many of us when we stand, we kind of do that slump to one side and pop a hip out. This is giving those muscles a nice, relaxing stretch, some length, and teaching them, again, what it feels like to come out of that chronic tension, that chronic activation and compression. And letting the breath again flow into that space, peak between the ribs. If you've had surgery or radiation on the right side, this might be a little intense for you. You might really be feeling it here. I've had surgery on this side, down gallbladder surgery, so down a little lower, just below my rib cage. I feel this big time here. There's a lot of scar tissue, a lot of tension, a lot of fascial tension that is slowly unwinding, and it does take time for fascia to unwind. So that's why we hold these poses for a while. We rest into them and we focus on release. We want to just find ease here. No need to be efforting. If you are efforting, change your shape as needed so that you can relax. Observe up through your shoulders, your ribs, and down into your pelvis too on this right side. Any sensation. I don't know if you can hear it on the video right now, but my neighbors seem to be having a little party while they're gardening, so we're getting a little bit of background music right now. Can't quite tell what it is yet, but sounds a bit 80s. Okay, let's start to bring the upper body back to center as we switch sides. Upper body comes back first, nice and slow. And then you can bring your right foot off the left, bring it back to center. Slowly draw the left leg back in. Arms back by your sides or your belly. And let's just take a breath in between sides. Compare right to left. And let's come over to the other side. So right foot is going to step over a foot or so. Left leg is going to follow. Cross on top. Ankles crossing left over right. Upper body will hop to the right side. Shoulders and head. If you'd like, bring your left arm up overhead. Your right hand can hold the left wrist if that's comfortable. And again, we're looking for a resting space. And adjust as you need to. Know that this side of your body might be different than the other side. Okay? Again, we have whole different sides of the body, 2 different shoulders, 2 different sets of ribs. We have another quadratus lumborum muscle on this side, another QL, the hip hiker. Different side of the pelvis. So this side of your body may have experienced life in a different way than the other side of your body. We honor that here. The shape, this pose might need to be adjusted. Again, we're breathing into it. Let your breath flow into your waist. Peek between the ribs. Get into that intercostal space between the ribs. Let's take this one for 3 more breaths. Full breath in. Full breath out. Relaxing, releasing with that exhalation. And as you're ready, upper body can come back through center. Lower body can follow. We're going to end this practice for the sake of timing for this video. Can end here with a little Shavasana or back to constructive rest pose where we started. If you're wanting a little more, I would recommend here a supported bridge pose. Feet on the floor, some cushions or blankets under your hips to again lengthen and gently stretch the hip flexors. Give a little support and curve to the lower back. Support the pelvis. So wherever you'd like to go, again, if you haven't watched part 1, maybe go back and watch part 1. And I think we'll probably have more posture videos coming. So I hope you join me again soon and have a great, great day. Bye-bye.